Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this regularly scheduled Springersbury Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Before we start, I would just like to say that there was an unfortunate incident this past weekend. You'll see members in the back of this room that are here for a different purpose tonight, more pleasant, but we had a number of officers at that event. There was an officer killed. There were 2 officers wounded, one of them ours. This group of people back here, it chokes me up. Chief, these guys are the most professional group of people I have ever met in my life. They do an excellent job supporting and defending our community. I would like to take a moment of silence for the fallen officer and the wounded. Thank you. If you would join me in a pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So at this point, I'd like to call the chief and Lieutenant Wilbur forward. Let's step up here where we have a microphone and the rest of the audience can see with the camera. So I would like to read this resolution. Whereas Brian T. Wilbur began his career with Springersbury Township on May 18, 1998 as a patrolman in the police department, and whereas Brian T. Wilbur was promoted to corporal on April 8, 2002, and whereas Brian T. Wilbur was promoted to sergeant on October 20, 2007, and whereas Brian T. Wilbur was promoted to lieutenant on January 5th, 2020, and whereas Brian T. Wilbur served the citizens of Springersbury Township for 26 years and 8 months with dedication and faithful service, and whereas Brian T. Wilbur began his retirement from Springersbury Township on January 17th, 2025, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Springersbury Township, on behalf of its citizens, wishes to express sincere gratitude and appreciation to Brian T. Wilbur for his years of dedication, faithful public service, and leadership. The board congratulates Brian T. Wilbur on his retirement and wishes him and his family much happiness and good health. Adopted this 27th day of February 2025.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening. We are here to celebrate the retirement of Lieutenant Brian Wilbur, and the proclamation that Chairman Swamley just read tells you a lot of the milestones of his career. 26 and a half years with the department, Police Academy graduate in 1998, Officer of the Year 2001, named a field training officer in 2002, a corporal in 2002, sergeant in 2007, and eventually to the lieutenant's position in 2020. I'm going to fill you in on some of the other accomplishments that Brian had in his career. You see, Brian was a behind-the-scenes guy, and he embraced that role, and he had a lot of success in it. So some of the things Brian was responsible for, he was responsible for maintaining our accreditation status, and he was the senior accreditation officer at the time when we were actually awarded our premier accreditation status, premier agency status. You see some of the gentlemen and ladies in the back wearing our honor guard uniform. Brian was responsible for the creation of our honor guard, and he had that distinction for many years. He was our technology guru, which I sincerely need. And he did drag the department, and a lot of times kicking and screaming, into the 21st century with his technology solutions. And he was also obviously responsible for many of our policy initiatives throughout his career. But there are additional things that I believe show where Brian left his indelible mark on this department. The patch that is on our arm was designed by Brian. The original draft of our mission statement, our vision statement, and our core values was authored by Brian. Even our vehicle design, you see the vehicles out running around the public, that design was made by Brian, okay? But where I'm gonna miss him the most is he was my confidant for a lot of years. He was that little Jiminy Cricket character that sits on your shoulder, and he would look at me and say, "Hey, Chief, did you ever think about this way?" Which is his nice way of saying, "Hey, I think you're going the wrong direction." All right, and I can't thank him enough for that. So with that said, I just want to wish you Godspeed in your retirement.
Thank you, appreciate it.
We always present the officers with their retirement badges. So Brian will have his retirement badge, which I'll present to you now. And we also present him with one of his service weapons that he carried while on duty. So I'll present that to him as well. I promise the last thing I'm going to do, and I'll get out of here, is we cannot do this job. There's no way we can do this job without a strong support system. I was here for Brian's entire career, and I can tell you he had one of the strongest support systems in his wife and his children that I've ever seen. So I want to say thank you, Brenda, for lending him to us for all those years.
Oh, you don't.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you much, I appreciate it. Congrats. Congratulations, enjoy it. Congratulations, Brian. You bet, absolutely.
All right, so we did have an executive session earlier this evening for potential litigation with York Suburban School District. And now I would like to open up the floor to any comments from citizens. If there's anybody in either the electronic audience or the in-person audience, please raise your hand to be recognized to come up and speak. Yes, sir, in the back corner. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Jeff Kirsch, Eastwood Drive, Springersbury Township. I just have a couple of remarks. I was out of town for 2 weeks, and I always try and keep up with these meetings, so I figured, I'll get online and grab the agenda and be somewhat informed, because, otherwise I wait till I get here. And the last year when I did that, it was great, click, 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 oh, there's everything. And all of a sudden, surprise, there's a new website. And I had a little bit of an adventure on that, I guess, both charitably. And I just want to relate some of those things that maybe we could add some improvements to get back to at least what the old website did, because it was intuitive. It took 3 clicks to get something, and this, at least for me, was a study in misdirection. Now, part of that could be I don't have a smartphone. I'm on a computer. I don't know if that makes a difference, or what browser I was using or whatever, but these seem to be structural, like you bring up the header and it says government. Yeah, that's the Board of Supervisors. Okay, bing, you know. And I wrote down the path I did, but you can follow it. The thing is that the next header I think I found was Board of Supervisors. Okay, click on that. Agenda? No, it gets another page which has like a matrix of numbers, which after, oh, that's a calendar, okay, and it's got dots on it. Okay, well, I click on today, and it says Board of Supervisors meeting. Congratulations. Ah, that'll get me to the agenda. Nope, that gets me to something that says February 27th, Board of Supervisors meeting, 7:30. Well, I knew all that from the path I followed. And it just, a couple of other misadventures. I accidentally found the quick links that are at the bottom of at least the computer video display, which if they're quick links, maybe they could be up where they'd be quickly found. But that wasn't success yet. Click on, I guess it was agenda and minutes, and that dumps me into the archives, which I think finally had the meeting notes, but from all this you can see I'm spending about 20 minutes of misdirection and figuring things out to what formerly took me 3 clicks. And with a couple of hopefully simple changes, I don't know, you know, I'm not a web designer, I have thrown one together, but you can either hard code them if you learn HTML or all these new things, or what a lot of people do, which was what I did, there's tools online where you basically cut and paste a template and do your website in 10 minutes. And I don't know if that's how this was done, or, you know, that's not my business. But the, and then I even tried the search function, which I put in meetings and agendas, supervisors. That came up to minutes, no agendas. So if they could either have go back to the old format, at least in structure, maybe not appearance. You know, the old one didn't have the nice pictures and the nice typeface, where clicking on the meeting would get you at least somewhat directly to the agenda in some manner, because the search or when you finally get to the archives, it has no memory of how you got there. It gives you 20 questions on the side of the page, you know, like what month, what year, what body, you know, what do you want about that? And it just, you know, this is part of our reputation to whoever, new people here, people that deal with us or whatever. And, you know, it's just, if this is how we present this part of ourselves, that's not a good thing. And for our residents, to get them more informed, not to, you know, have to go through a mountain of broken glass. I had this same experience. I had to look into buying some lumber over the weekend, and I went on Home Depot and Lowe's site. Lowe's site, 2x6s, 10-footer. Oh, and it gives you all the other sizes there, and you can get what you need to know. Home Depot, on the other hand, nice place. I love them. You finally get to exactly what you want. It says, well, people who bought this also bought, and it's like hammer, glue, you know, no other wood. You know, it's just by statistical. So I'm saying to get a better view of the user, you know, of where they need to go and quickly get back to the old last year's website would
Okay, thank
do a lot
you.
better for them.
I
Thank you.
know that just recently changed, and there are probably some bugs to work out and
Yeah,
things
well,
like that. So
you know, if
I'm sure Mark will.
I know
We
that
are.
the
Yeah,
motivation was
they're working on it.
improvement, and there's effort put into like everything, but if nobody is a malcontent and says anything, then everybody thinks
Yep.
everything's wonderful, and it just gets worse. So
I
that's
appreciate it.
The
Thank you.
spirit this was presented. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
General.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? If you're on Zoom, please click the raise hand button. Anybody in the audience? Please.
Good evening. Thank you. My name's Alana Bortolin. I live in Haynes Acres. I appreciate Mr. Kirsch bringing that up. I was a little concerned about the website as well. And I have some concerns that while you are not directly responsible, I think you'd like to know that and be brought to your attention. So equally concerns about the website. As recently as December, a log of right-to-know requests that had been submitted to the township was available on the website, but it had not been updated since May of 2023. As of today, this log is no longer available on the website at all, which begs the question, how would someone obtain several of the recently submitted right-to-know requests? Because at least 5 recently submitted requests have been shared on social media and not by the individuals who submitted them. Additionally, I would expect that detailed blueprints for school buildings would be kept confidential. Imagine my surprise and horror to see someone sharing on social media a picture of the architectural blueprints that have been provided to the township. How would a resident obtain such sensitive information? I know via my own right-to-know request, a party that was represented by an attorney to fight the district zoning was not actually paying for this attorney and was reticent to incur any costs at all. I've subsequently learned that the attorney fighting the variance requests was paid for by a political action committee. Now, this doesn't sound legal to me, but that's not my area of expertise. If it is legal, it is certainly ethically questionable to have a political action committee fighting a zoning variance request for a school building. And to further complicate matters, that your township supervisor sits on the board of this school district, creating an extreme conflict of interest in which he is the only loud voice against the building project. And I urge you to reconsider that.
So I'm not sure that Don Bishop, Charles Worcester, Bob Cox, George Dvoryak, and I are the supervisors.
Yes.
Is one of us in conflict?
No,
Not quite sure I understand what you're saying, that one of us sitting on the board is a
I'm not
vocal
saying
member.
that one of you is in conflict. I'm saying that your solicitor is in conflict.
Oh, that's not what you said.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm
our
sorry,
solicitor is not allowed to be our solicitor.
That's not what I'm saying.
I guess I'm kind of trying to understand what
I'm saying
the complaint is.
it's a clear conflict of interest that your solicitor has to be giving you legal advice related to matters surrounding the school district.
So our solicitor here does not give us counsel because he has recused himself from that. We have other counsel that we use for the school district.
Okay. Does that apply to everybody within the building, with all township employees that are involved in this project? Because you are.
Are you making an accusation?
I'm not making an accusation.
Okay, so then
I
I'm
am
not
raising
quite
concerns.
sure-
You have asked for concerns, and I am raising them. Your township engineer, during the zoning variance request hearing, discussed that he spoke to the solicitor about the plans. He did not say the zoning board solicitor. He said the township solicitor.
So if our solicitor has a firm and we're represented by multiple attorneys, and he talks to another solicitor who is in the firm that we employ to do our work, he would say the township solicitor. He did not name, I'm sure, did not name James Sanders as the solicitor.
No, but
because
upon my
that's-
questioning, he did not deny it,
Did not deny what?
speaking to James Sanders about building plans.
Okay, so if you have a complaint like this, then you need to take care of that through whatever channels you have available to you. Nobody on this board that I'm aware of has done anything to cause any issues. We have not discussed with our solicitor, James Sanders. We have talked to our solicitor, Charles Roush, who has no conflict to be able to represent us in any of those matters.
Certainly. This
Okay.
project has now been
So-
delayed 7 months.
Excuse me?
This project has now been delayed over 7 months, and the appearance of a conflict of interest is extreme.
In your opinion?
with the general community. I'm here,
In your opinion.
and the
I'm
opinion of
hearing you.
several people.
Several people are not standing there.
Sure.
So in your opinion, you think there's a conflict of interest?
Absolutely.
Okay, that has been brought forward through counsel for the school board with our representatives, and we're aware of your concern.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I also have, through my right to know request, emails from the township engineer to the school district regarding the project, including Mr. Sanders on the emails. That would be including your solicitor involved in a conflict of interest, including in discussions of the building project, in email.
I have no knowledge of that. I'm sorry, and that's nothing.
Would
that
you
I
like to
can-
see my right to know request, sir? I'm happy to provide it to you.
I am sure that I can see the right to know request through our township manager. I am telling you here right now that I and my fellow supervisors have no knowledge of that.
Okay. Is there a reason that the right to know request log is no longer on the website?
Probably in the change.
Okay.
And it is probably being worked on. And I will let our manager respond to that.
All issues that we're having with the new website are being worked on.
Okay. And how would somebody who had not submitted a right to know request have copies of said request to post on social media? And what about the architectural
So you're
blueprint?
making accusations here that are unfounded, in my opinion. So if you have a problem with thinking that somebody did something, we're not the body that can do anything about that.
You asked for comments regarding,
Yes, you have made your comments. It's very clear that you're upset that there was a zoning issue and
sir, this is beyond the zoning issue. There has been information coming out of the township. Somehow, somebody, a resident of the district, acquired a architectural blueprint of a school, the details of the school, and posted it to social media.
maybe you should take it up with that person that posted it.
How would that
Because
person have obtained it?
I have no idea.
Well, they said that they got it from the office, your township office. Is your township office providing architectural blueprints for schools?
Okay, so this is a complaint session, not just comments to the supervisors. The timeframe for doing this is up for tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we please, I think our secretary could not hear the name and address of the person that made
she's
these
getting the
comments,
name
and I
right now.
couldn't either. Could we have that clearly stated to the microphone?
I concur.
That's Alana Bortolin. Did you need more?
Address? I can't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Alana Bortolin.
Can you spell that?
ALANNA
An address?
2635 Milford Lane. Anything else?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Sarah Reinecker. I'm a resident of Spring Garden Township, and I'm a resident, which obviously the matter of having on your agenda the school board issue. This is what I'm here to comment on. I just wanted to share a couple of facts that I'm aware of in terms of being a volunteer in the district. I, first of all, am the chair of Citizens for York Suburban School District. That is a PAC that endorses candidates for York Suburban School District, and we are in a election year this year, 2025. I pulled the campaign finance report of a group called Concerned YS Residents on January 31st, 2025. On that campaign finance report are two one $5,000 and one $4,995. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact amount, but basically totaling $10,000. And the expenditure on the report was to Barley Snyder. I'm aware that Barley Snyder is the representation for Louise Soskin and Daniel Barker. Those were the two claimants in the November and December 2024 Springettsbury Township zoning meeting. And their representation was Justin Termevi, and he is an attorney at Barley Snyder. Those two payments, I am making the assumption he was paid because the expenditure on that campaign finance
Okay, so
report.
I'm not here to hear assumptions about who paid who.
I'm not
for-
giving you any assumptions,
No,
Mr.
you just-
Swamley. What I am saying is.
Excuse me for a minute,
Of
please.
course, of course.
So you just said you assumed that the payments were made to a certain person. We don't have a PAC in the township. We haven't paid Barley Snyder for anything. If you have a complaint, that needs to go to the election board, not to this.
I'm sorry, Mr. Swamley,
Township
if you would
board.
just let me finish, because I think this is impertinent information as
It
you,
is pertinent
as
to
this
you,
township considers the deliberation of the school district's zoning variance appeal that is happening on March 6th. So furthermore, those payments were made, $5,000 each, and they were expensed to a campaign finance report. That group, once again, is called Concerned YS Residents. That same group announced their candidates last Thursday. Those candidates are James Sanders, who is an incumbent on the York Suburban School Board. Their second candidate is Chris Sanders, James Sanders' mother. Their third candidate is Michael Park. Let me have a little squirrel sidebar. Michael Park is also on that campaign finance report of expending in-kind donation of $5,000, and that in-kind donation description is for legal fees. The fourth candidate on their slate is Andy Ruth. Why does this matter? On their, the formation of their PAC was
So what you're
August
doing-
1st of
excuse me,
2024.
Excuse me.
Sure.
You are casting aspersions. This is not a matter that this board can act on. This is not something that belongs here. If you have it seems that you're complaining that somebody is spending money on something illegally or unethically. If that is what your complaint is, you need to take that up with the York County Elections Board.
Mr. Swamley,
in
I
the-
am not, this is not a complaint.
No, so
I
what
am
you're
not
doing-
filing a complaint. What I am doing is providing information to your board. I am providing facts for your board to consider.
No, you are
As
providing
you work within
opinion.
your, no, I'm not. These are facts. These are facts, and I will drive over here tomorrow, and I will submit to you the campaign finance report and everything that I'm
And
saying,
what would
which is
you say
facts.
that we should do with that?
I'm not asking you to do anything. I am providing your board as they
All
are
right, so wait,
involved.
okay, this is done. You may have a seat. Thank you.
I'd like to share one
You
more
may have a
fact with
seat,
you.
or I will ask to have you removed.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for hearing my information. I greatly appreciate it. Good evening.
Is there anyone who would like to address the board in a more civil manner? All right, then we will move on. Next, we have engineering reports. Diana?
Good evening, gentlemen. I have no updates or additions to the report that was submitted. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Anybody have any questions for our engineer?
All right.
All
Thank you.
right, civil engineering, John.
Good evening. I don't have any updates to my report. Some of my reported items are going to be discussed later on in subdivision and land development.
Any questions? Thank you, John. Next, we have our consent agenda, and that would be items A through H. Are there any items on here that anyone would like to have removed for further discussion?
I'll move to approve consent agenda items A through H.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have bids, proposals, contracts, and agreements. There is a fifth amendment to Articles of Agreement between PA American Water Company and Springersbury Township, extending the term until April 1st, 2025.
Mr. Chairman, we're continuing to work on the agreement.
I'll move to approve the Fifth Amendment to the Articles of Agreement between Pennsylvania American Water Company and Springersbury Township, extending the term till April 1st, 2025.
Second, Charles.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, next we have subdivisions and land development. Our first item is SD 2024-0003, preliminary/final subdivision plan, and that's DEPS LP and Form SIG 1701, 1715, and 1721 Whiteford Road.
Good evening to the Board of Supervisors. This is a subdivision for these properties as stated in the agenda, and we do have representation tonight from the consultant and their team. And this is a lot consolidation of lots 1 and 2, and then the third lot will still be separate. But this is a companion piece, if you will, to the subdivision or the land development plan that is next on the agenda, just to make you aware that there is a connection between the two sets of plans. And with that said, I'm going to have the consultant, Site Design Concepts is here representing the plan tonight. That is Mr. Tom Englerth, and I don't know, I think there's an attorney representing here as well. I think the applicant is also available. So they will be providing the overview and answer the questions that the Board of Supervisors have in regard to the subdivision plan. And we will have the plan on the screen momentarily.
Good evening, Supervisors. Attorney Justin Tomevi here on behalf of the applicant, WLR Auto Group. WLR Auto Group has been around for 37 years. They operate 30-plus locations across the region and have over 580 employees. They're an experienced operator, and you're going to learn tonight about the car washes that they operate. One of these car washes you can see in York already. It's near the West York Target. They also operate auto repair and maintenance facilities in addition to car washes. Tonight I have with me, as Mr. Luciani and Mr. Hallman referenced, Tom Englerth from Site Design. We have John Seitz from TRG, who's going to talk about any of the traffic concerns that we've been discussing with the township to date. And I also have tonight Chad Bond, who is the Acquisitions and Development Director for WL Auto Group. The site we're dealing with is at the northeast corner of Route 30 and North Hills Road. And after a bunch of negotiation and unfortunately some litigation involving the site and the 3 parcels there, we were able to bring together the owners of these 3 parcels that are otherwise, as you probably drive by them and see them, otherwise vacant or effectively largely vacant and dilapidated. And we have a proposal tonight for a state-of-the-art car wash. The Planning Commission, Randall Howman and Mr. Luciani, they have gone through, they've thoroughly looked at this project, and I commend them for the deep dive that they've taken on this and working with our team. We've been through the Planning Commission several times and worked through many comments and revisions to the plan. Ultimately, we believe we had the Planning Commission at a point where they were comfortable with the project, but as you'll hear tonight, they kind of wanted the site flipped related to some sightline issues with traffic coming off of North Hills Road onto Whiteford Road. We understand that the team here at Springersbury continues to have sightline concerns, but we do intend to address those this evening. We're going to walk you through tonight with our team of experts why, despite significant efforts that they have made to try to do so, we just simply cannot flip the site to reroute the entrances and the exits. As you probably know, this site is just not perfect, and we really cannot make it perfect given its location and the fact that it's surrounded by roads on 3 sides. Although we can't make the site perfect, what we are proposing is to make this site much better, certainly better than what exists there now at Spring and Sperry's most visible intersection. Importantly, the entrances and the exits that we tend to use at this site are already there. This is what these sites are already using, and they're staying the same with just some minor modifications. So the concerns that have been raised about these entrances and exits exist now, and they really have for decades. They just really haven't been highlighted because these sites have been largely vacant. So certainly one option for this board and this township is to deny the application and likely keep these properties vacant. Vacant properties, of course, do not have traffic, but vacant properties are not, in our opinion, what's best for the township. Among the things you're going to hear us talk about tonight is what we're doing to improve this site and address the traffic-related concerns. That includes closing the North Hills exit. If you've come off of Route 30, there's a North Hills entrance to this site. We're going to close that off because that has the potential to slow down traffic. So that's one thing that we're going to do. The one thing that we're also willing to do is we're willing to sharpen the corner there to slow down traffic, the corner there at North Hills and Whiteford, to slow down traffic and address some of these sight line issues, which again already exist with the site as is, but we want to try to make it better. Also, one additional easy fix that this board can take and probably should take is that strip there of Whiteford is surprisingly 40 miles per hour metered for traffic. We think that if you move that down to 25 miles per hour, that deals a lot with these sightline issues. So we're going to propose that if the board accepts our application and wants to make that a condition, that we would be open to that, in addition to sharpening that corner and in addition to closing off the North Hills exit. We do appreciate the work that Mr. Heilman, and Mr. Luciani, and the Planning Commission have put into this project. We understand the concerns that they raise, and they're certainly worth discussing tonight, and that's why we brought everyone in so that you can hear from the team as to how we tried to deal with these specific issues. You'll hear from Mr. Bond tonight, and he'll discuss the process that WLR has gone through, the exhaustive process here to try to make this project work, and how it is really at a go or no-go stage based on what this board decides tonight. WLR is ready to make a multi-million-dollar investment into this area and clean up, these problem parcels, but it simply can't do it with the layout that the Planning Commission wanted. So we do look forward to your questions this evening. We appreciate your attention to this matter. I'm going to ask Tom Engler from Site Design to kind of start us out and go through some of these site variations that we worked on.
Good evening, everybody. Tom Engler from Site Design. If you didn't get that already, thank you. I'll just echo Justin's appreciation and thanks to the Planning Commission and the staff for working with us so hard over the last 3 or 4 months, try to work out these issues. Everybody has tried their best, and we appreciate that. And one other thing, that through the process of the multiple meetings that we came to for the Planning Commission, one of the things we do is, unfortunately, somebody behind us right now is going to have to sit through our presentation. We sat through presentations by your consultants who were working on the comp plan for the township. And one of the biggest issues that they brought up has a lot to do with a site like this, which is, a developed site that doesn't meet current standards, and how you deal with a built environment in a situation that Spring and Sperry has all over the township. So that's something that will be probably coming to you more and more through the comp plan and hopefully through some of the zoning changes that come of that. I'm going to try, bear with me while I work through the technology here. I've done this a few times, but not every week, so I haven't learned it. I'll walk you through real quick. We have 3 lots. Where is the highlight on this? I'm sorry. The top button? Oh, yeah. It's a little slow. So we have 3 lots. They're all under half an acre. Combined, they will be 1.25 acres. It's a little unique because these are not going to all be combined together as a land sale. It's a lease. There's 2 different owners. So at this point, we are going to be combining the 2 lots on the planned south side of the page, and the parcel to the north side of the plan, that's going to remain separate. Let me see if I can get this forward. Yeah. So that's what it'll look like as part of the subdivision plan. We'll have the 2 lots on the bottom of the screen and the 1 lot at the top. Those will be lease lots. Those will be lease parcels. Now, when we go to the, I'm sorry, how do we go to the next set of plans? Oh, yeah, WLR, to go to the, yeah, there we go, thank you. Go quicker. If I was a little more adept at this, I apologize. So what we're proposing, and I'll walk you through it real quick, is this layout. I believe you've probably seen it. You've had a chance to look at it. But the way this is going to work, there's the highlight. My arrow's down here. So the way this will work, you'll enter the site from this lower driveway. You'll come around into the queue to pay. Once the gate goes up, if you've been to the other car wash, you understand how that works. The gate goes up, you drive around this turn, and you're entered into the car wash by an attendant. You come out the other side, and as you get to the end there, you got a little light flashing, relax, don't come out. And then you get out, it turns green, and you can proceed through to the vacuum field. And at that point, you pull in, get your car vacuumed, you vacuum your car yourself, or you leave on your own. Now, I think the driveway in question is this one. We have moved that approximately 5 to 10 feet further away from the intersection. Again, not perfect, gotten better. We've closed off this entrance completely, and that's how this iteration is going to work. Now, we have looked at this site so many different ways. We have over 12 sketches trying to align this car wash on this site. We've run it parallel to Route 30. We've run it diagonal to the site. We've flipped it. We've done so many different iterations. In fact, the client themselves have given us 3 or 4 of their own iterations that we tried to make work. Can I get to the next? Can I get through this section and to the next? But what we've been hearing from the Planning Commission, from your engineer, is that yes, right there, that's perfect. Thank you. Is why can't we flip the site and get the main exit really further down on Whiteford? So we pulled this up, and you can see that down in the lower right-hand corner, that's SK7. So this was already looked at. This was 7 iterations in. But as you can see, you enter where the other entrance was, up near the intersection. You come through, and just a flip doesn't work, because when you come through here and get to the pay stall, all of a sudden your passenger's at the window, not the driver. So if you don't have somebody in the car with you to pay, this doesn't work. So can we go to the next one, please? Yeah, so again, we looked at this. We looked at keeping that driveway where we exit as far away as we can. Now we can come in. We can come in. This entrance is actually, I'm sorry, this thing. I apologize. The entrance in, as you can see, is a little bit further from the intersection. You come in, there's plenty of room to queue up. We get in, we pay, we come out the other side. Now here's where the issue is. When you leave the car wash, there's only a queue in that exit for 2 cars. That's not enough. It shuts down that type of queue shuts down the car wash. But to make it even worse, when you come to this, I'm sorry, can you help me with this? I really need a highlighter. The big issue is when you come out of the car wash and get to that T intersection. What does this do? I'm sorry. Oh yeah, just the. You get to this point right here. Now, if you're gonna make the right and go get your vacuums, you're all set. You can make that right and get back here. But if the vacuums are full, or you don't want to get a vacuum, you've got to get out of here. You've got to cross this driveway, and there's not even enough for 1 car there. You're blocking that intersection, coming in and getting out. So there's absolutely 0 queue for this scenario. Now, when you look at the site in West York, you know, there's more distance, more depth in that lot. So they have a much bigger area, and you know, they're not coming right out to the exit. They have room to go either direction with multiple cars and safely get in and out of that site, whether they're going to the vacuums or whether they're going onto the street. So that's the scenario that we had presented. These last 2 are the ones that we heard the most requests for through the planning and review process, and I think we've shown tonight why that doesn't work. Again, we have looked at this site, and you can see this is sketch 7.2. So we've had well over a dozen sketches. We've looked at this site every which way we can, and while it's not ideal, we feel it's certainly a much better situation than what you have out there from a safety standpoint. By closing that entrance on North Hills Road, and also, you know, we have made the presentation to reduce that speed limit on Whiteford Road, which would change the speed that cars come to that intersection. And we've also provided the option of sharpening that turn from North Hills Road onto Whiteford Road that would really slow those cars down. Any car that's coming this direction and making that turn, when they get to this driveway, that would really slow them down. I mean, I went through there tonight and on my way here, and when I come around this turn, I get up to 20 miles an hour, and I was trying to. So I think if we sharpen that turn and reduce that speed limit on Whiteford, I think we can address those concerns. You know, our client has these facilities all over the Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania region. I think there's a couple in Delaware too, I'm not sure. But they know exactly what it takes to operate these car washes. If there's an issue with this driveway, people aren't going to come to the car wash. We know that the traffic issue is there. We've done our best to address that, make a bad situation much, much better. And I believe the next person up to speak, my colleague John Seitz, can go into a little more detail on the ins and outs, the nuts and bolts of the traffic. Before he does that, I'll be glad to answer any questions about our layout and about the layout that we're putting forth and about the layouts that we've investigated on our own and as a result of being asked to by the Planning Commission and your staff.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. The one that you have up, the plan that you have up on the screen right now is not the plan you want us to consider. Is that correct?
That's correct. Could we go back to the plan that we?
Okay. I get real confused when you show me things that that are not part of your proposal. So I'm better now. Thank you.
Okay.
Tom, I have a quick.
I had the same comment.
Just a quick question on the plan that you were showing, not the one you want us to approve, but the last one we're looking
We'll go
at.
back. We'll go back to the other one.
Is there any possibility, let's see. No, not that one.
The one we were just on,
The one we were just on.
The very last
the one that we're not going to use.
Correct.
Yeah.
Nope.
Oh,
That's the
sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Maybe it's
what's your-
nonsensical, but could you have a no left or no left turn for people exiting the car wash? Force them all to turn right down that long strip and then come back and hit the exit
So we've talked.
in a line of cars.
We talked about a no left turn, and quite frankly, I'll let our client speak to that. But I believe that in our conversation, that was brought up very early by us and by the Planning Commission.
So it
And-
wasn't a stupid question, is what you're telling me.
No, not stupid.
It could still be a stupid question.
Yeah.
It may be. I asked it early on too, though, so we're in the same boat. I'll let the client answer that question, but when I asked that question early on, and when the Planning Commission and staff asked that question, this site really needs full movement in order to be operational and legitimate.
Tom, it's Charles. Do I understand, will this plan yield a reduction in impervious surface or not?
Oh, yes, it will. I don't have, I can get that number for you. It's on my, it's in my notes here. But it's significant. It's double-digit percentages.
Okay. And as I look at the map here, and I'm trying to get, so the eastern border of the site, which would I guess be the third parcel as we sit here today, is that at grade? Is there a fence between the two properties now? It looks like it is at grade, and it looks like it's continuous impervious surface cross.
Yeah, they are all, they're all
any
at grade.
constraints?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
I
go
interrupted. There are no, this is all at grade. There's limited, the cut and fill that we have on this site is related to just us getting the proper drainage to work. It's a very flat site.
Okay, so you'd contain your traffic with curbs on the cartway, if you will, through the site,
That's correct.
or not?
No, we
Okay,
do.
you would put in curbs there in order to prevent them from slipping across the at grade onto the other property and creating other, because there's another exit over there at that other property.
Yeah,
That's why.
so Supervisor Worcester, the entire site is curbed, and I don't think our landscape plan shows it as green, but anything that's on that border to the to Plan South, the south side of the page, that'll all be planted in grass.
Okay, all right. Kind of what I thought I was reading, but I wanted to make sure.
Why don't we go back to the correct page now, so that we're talking about what we have proposed in front of us.
That's the, yeah, that's the one.
Okay, what page is that?
So this is C4 of the land development. We can go to the grading page or the landscape page. But this is, so this is the subdivision. If we go to the, I think we're on the right page.
C6? Which one?
Yeah, we can go to C4.
C4.
C6 would be the, C5 or 6 would be the grading plan.
Okay.
Other direction, I'm sorry. Feeling really inadequate here tonight by not being able to do this myself.
There we go. Nope. I think it was the one right there.
Yeah, right there. Perfect.
Right
Thank you.
Questions, gentlemen? Comments?
Mr. Swalley, I do have a couple comments or questions for John Seitz when he's up.
Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, we can bring John up now. Thank you.
I'd like to hear John's presentation first, but I do have some follow-on questions.
Okay,
All right.
go ahead, John.
John Seitz with Transportation Resource Group. We've been working with the township for over a year on this project as far as traffic-wise. We had a sit-down meeting over a year ago with the development staff and engineer. We talked about the project. The first thing we did, we actually did two studies. Back in February of 2024, we went out into the field, and because one of the questions and concerns was the distance between the driveway on Whiteford Road, which is closest to North Hills Road, is there enough stacking and storage in there for vehicles that are coming out, and what's happening there right now? And we did go out there. We were out there for about 5 hours, morning peak hour, afternoon peak hour when school was in session. And what we did determine was that it really operates very efficiently. That when traffic does pull up on Whiteford Road at North Hills Road, it does not take them long to get through. There was 2 instances. One time we had 6 vehicles in queue. One time we had 5 vehicles in queue. The rest of the time we were 3 vehicles or less. And when they were in queue, it was like seconds. It was like 2 or 3 seconds that we would have been blocking the intersection. Later on, we certainly did more discussions, talk with the staff. We prepared a traffic study, which was submitted in September 2024. We examined the site access intersection. We examined the Whiteford Road, North Hills Road intersection, took a look at the level of service, took a look at the queuing and stacking for those. And I will say that the queuing information that we received from our synchro analysis and our maximum queue for the Whiteford Road approach was 45. The 95th percentile in the PM peak hour with development is 45 feet. So once again, we're less than that distance between the driveway and the intersection with North Hills Road. So we do feel that it's spaced further away. There are a couple of positive things with this project. Well, there's many positive things with this project. One is, as was mentioned before, there is an existing driveway that's on North Hills Road right now. And that driveway, traffic can come in and out of there, cut across at any point to go access in and go out of that. There's no restrictions on that driveway. So that driveway would be eliminated, and we think that is a very positive thing. I'm a longtime resident of York County. I've been here. I've been in the county over 60 years. I do remember when it was a Penn-Supreme convenience store here. I mean, a use like that could come back in, essentially tomorrow and reutilize that space with the existing accesses the way they are. So that's something that could happen. Tom had mentioned a couple things, and the attorney had mentioned a couple things that we're looking at. One of the things is the speed limit. That Whiteford Road, when you look at Whiteford Road at the Galleria, and close to Route 24, it's 25 mile per hour. But then once you get past that, it's sort of funny. Once you get past that and you go into the curves, and everybody's familiar with Whiteford Road, there's a lot of curves on that roadway. And once we get into the curves, mysteriously, the speed limit goes from 25 up to 40 mile per hour. We don't think that's appropriate. We think that 25 is probably a more appropriate speed limit for that section. So that's something that could be looked into. Now, Tom stated that when he drove through tonight, he was able to make that curve at 20 mile per hour. I was at 17 mile per hour when I made that curve. It is, you do certainly slow down when you make that curve, go around there. Is this an ideal place to put the driveway? Do we wish there was more distance and more separation distance between North Hills Road and our driveway? Absolutely, positively, without a doubt. We would like it to be further away. But I think, when you look at, we went through this exercise. Site design went through this exercise, as previously stated, multiple times, many times, trying to make this work. And we feel that this is, really looking at it, the best solution for this location. So is it perfect? It is not, but we think because we're closing down the driveway on North Hills and some other things, the speed limit reduction, tightening up that curve so that we can further reduce speeds on Whiteford Road, we think we're trying to come up with a win-win here, and hoping that's where we can go. So if there are any further questions you have for me.
Hey, John, it's Charles.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, where would they post the speed limit 25 mile an hour on Whiteford if we went to that?
It's posted.
Trying to find it on the plan.
It's posted multiple places. In fact, it's posted as soon as you make the turn from North Hills Road, virtually right away almost right away on the site. If you are on North Hills Road and make the turn, there's a 40 mile per hour sign right almost immediately when you make that turn. But there's maybe about there's numerous 40 mile per hour signs.
Okay.
Along
I didn't see it on the plans.
And interestingly, as you drive east on Whiteford Road and you head towards the first curve, there's a 15 mile per hour advisory speed there. So we have a turn advisory with 15 mile per hour there.
Yeah, I see it now. I see it. So, John, I was focusing on Whiteford. Maybe I missed a comment that you have here. So if you are coming out of the car wash, you get to Whiteford, I get that. Then you have to make that left, presuming that you're heading south or wanting to get back to 30. So then you have a little bit of queuing, don't you have there on North Hills Road heading south. And, I've gone through there numerous times as a way to work. Sometimes that queuing that light to get from North Hills on the north side of 30 over to North Hills on the south side, you got to time it right, and you got to run through that. That's a very short light. Is there going to be any backed up queuing on North Hills Road as throughput comes out of Whiteford onto North Hill?
I've been out there. I've seen it. I've seen it a few times, but for the most part, and I think we go back to that 95th percentile, that it would not extend back. It would not extend back that far. The traffic signal at Route 30 and North Hills Road, it is an adaptive traffic signal, and I should probably talk about that a little bit. That it's really the latest and greatest. It uses artificial intelligence. It really every single time you go through that intersection, it's probably different than the last time. It's not like the old traffic signals that just did the same thing. It's using real-time traffic demand. It has cameras that are counting and monitoring the number of vehicles that are on the approach, and it's changing the timings, the phasings to meet the demand, so that if there is an excessive queue in one area, then that would get priority and get the green. So it really is a very smart traffic signal. Once again, it's overtaxed, especially for the westbound left turn. I think we all know that westbound left turn especially in the afternoon, does exceed the capacity. But the rest of that intersection does operate fairly well because of that latest technology. It is a very good traffic signal and the technology that's out there.
You may not have been out there during rush hour about 5 o'clock coming eastbound from the city. Every single light through there, it stacks, and it can take multiple light signals to get through there. But that's not a problem of this intersection and coming in from the side, and it may pick it up better from the side than it does going straight through on Route 30, but there are problems there. Sir, are you associated with this project?
No, I just wondered if I could add a comment that might be helpful to everybody.
So we're past public comment, so thank you.
John, one other question is that the current uses of the properties, you could say like they're retail, one car pulls in, you get out of the car, go in and do whatever retail function. I know it's vacant. This design, though, is a vehicle and throughput design. That is to say, we want to run as many cars through this as possible, creating a traffic flow, as opposed to pull in and park, get out, and so forth. Compare, contrast the existing uses now relative to the proposed, and give me an understanding of like really how that traffic is really considered in your traffic study.
I can answer part of that for you, Charlie. We did, for the projection and for the traffic study, we did use the IT trip generation manual. And I think, as everyone knows, the IT trip generation manual is the established, really, Bible for trip generation. And utilizing that, we're looking at a total of 78 vehicles, 39 entering, 39 exiting during the AM and PM peak hour. As far as the retail uses that are there, if you look at them individually and what happens, it's certainly less than that. Like I said, there was uses in the past, the Pennsylvania grocery, sort of shop at convenience store that was there. And it could be something else. I mean, it could be something else, a retail, a higher use retail. If I would use ITE for a retail, it probably would not approach the car wash, but it could. It might, depending on that. So I didn't really go back and make that comparison between what is there and what's projected.
Okay. Thank you, John.
I have a question about the site distance. So the issue with site distance is looking westbound from the exit, pulling out onto Whiteford. And I heard you say that you've moved the driveway, was it 5 or 10 feet? What is the distance now from North Hills Road to the driveway? And is that within a kind of standard that's been set for safe site distance?
We're in the 70 feet range of site distance.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
70 feet, plus or minus.
From the intersection to the driveway?
Yes.
70 feet. And is there a standard that's applied in today's world by PennDOT or someone as to what a safe site distance is?
It's at 25 mile per hour, it's around 149 feet. You had that.
It's on our plan. We have our site distance right there on the plan in the upper right-hand corner. That's to the center line of the intersection. It's a little deceiving here because there is the people that we're looking at are coming around the turn. So it's
We can't hear comments from the audience.
So it's a tough site distance to measure because usually you're looking up and down a straight road and you can just measure it. Here, where we're at 116 feet from our exit to the center line of that intersection. Now, the cars that are coming towards us westbound or from the west, eastbound, are coming around that turn. So if we keep that turn clear, we can actually see a little bit further So we're in the, we're probably in the 80, 100 feet range, depending on where we measure that to and how far around that bend we can see those cars coming. And they do have a dedicated turn lane there, so we know that they're coming. We don't have to wait and see if they're turning or going straight.
Thank you.
And I do think, if it remains 40 miles an hour, you're not getting a driveway there that meets the site distance on this site, or, you're gonna have to get 4 or 5 lots down before you get that. And by that time, now you've got a site distance problem going the other way to that turn. Regardless, I think we're looking at reducing the speed limit and not meeting the required site distance on that site, but getting very close, getting closer and making it better than what's there.
But the site isn't meeting that distance now.
That's correct.
Other questions, gentlemen?
Good evening.
Evening.
So, my name's Chad Baum, WLR Automotive Group, representing the owner, operator. Here to answer any questions you guys might have as far as the operation. I want to thank our team that we've hired to work with the township over the last year. Many different iterations, addressing many different comments. And I'll just say again, I think that we have come up with probably the best ideal site for what this site has to offer. That works for us, and then also works, with what we have to work with. So,
Thank you. Any questions?
I'll ask my question again. With the flip site,
yes, sir.
does a no left turn prohibit you from operating the business the way you want to operate it?
Yeah, so I know it's not up there now,
No,
but
no, I know.
if you can remember kind of coming out of
Yep.
that site,
Yep.
Tom, I think said there was room for 2 cars to stack.
Correct. If you turn left coming out.
If you would turn right to go to the vacuums, or left, correct, either way.
If you turn
There's room for 2 cars coming out of the tunnel before you either go right or left. Unfortunately, on busy days, sometimes all the vacuums are full, and people nowadays aren't always considerate of others, and they'll just sit there and they will wait until a vacuum opens. We do have people out on site, employees trying to police and friendly guide, help direct traffic, but people kind of do what they want to do. So that would shut the whole system down, right? And then you create a whole nother issue as far as coming in, stacking. It just snowballs, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
So we have a site design in front of us.
Yep.
And so we had some recommendations. I think one that I saw from community development was to allow some of the modifications / waivers and not others. We've had some discussion about whether or not that should be. We have some conditions of approval. I'd just like thoughts on how we move forward with this.
Well, if I understand it, we still have a recommendation from the planning committee not to approve the site because of the sight lines, and that the developer's inability to flip the site doesn't do anything to affect those other than maybe move it 5 or 10 feet.
bear in mind, just wanted to let you know, we obviously have two separate actions here. We do have a subdivision plan, and then we do have a land development
Land
plan.
development plan to follow.
And so
Yeah.
they've been really explaining both while they've been providing the presentation to you.
Understand.
So
Has
happy
your-
to answer any questions that you may
Has
have.
York County Planning looked at this?
Yes, they have.
What was the feedback from that?
I do not have that with me this evening. Without going to print it out quickly, I don't have it.
I don't have that on us either, but there were no traffic comments. They were related to standard plan comments that we usually get from the.
You say no traffic comments.
And if I may, I apologize to belabor this any longer, but before you enter into a decision and consider a vote and how you're going to vote, there are some conditions of approvals on each of these that I think we need to discuss before you take action. And again, I think it can be relatively quickly, but there's some issues here that I think just need to be presented.
Okay, is there anything else in the waivers section that you want to discuss first?
I think we're all set on the waivers of the subdivision. I think there's one waiver on the land development plan related to the traffic study.
So we're not on the land development right now.
Okay.
We're on the subdivision.
Perfect. So I think at this point, I believe we're good on the waivers for the.
Okay,
subdivision
so
plan.
what conditions did you want to discuss?
So when I look down through this list of conditions that are a list of 13 conditions, if you, and I'll read these off to you, the numbers 1, 2, 6, 8, 9, 12, and 13. They're all related to the land development plan, not to the subdivision plan. We had this originally as a combined subdivision land development. We were asked to separate it into two sets of plans by the township. We did that, and the letter we got, or the conditions that we have here are, provide a photometric plan, provide a stormwater management plan, et cetera, on those, 1, 2, 6, 8, 9, 11, 12, and 13. Those are all items that I'm not sure why we need to show those on the subdivision plan. The subdivision plan is just the land and the combining of the land. These items are all being provided on the land development plan. So when we separate this out, you kind of have to look at this subdivision as standalone subdivision.
John, comments?
I would agree. I mean, I think, as explained before, the Planning Commission first saw the subdivision plan, recommended the waivers, to defer everything to the land development plan. And then when the land development plan came in, there was a discussion about flipping the car wash. And their recommendation was they recommended denial because of the lack of sight distance. And then they were sort of in reverse, acting on the subdivision plan. But they're really, at that time, because the waivers were previously acted upon, there wasn't a legitimate reason to reject the subdivision plan. Because they had recommended waiving sidewalks, waiving curbing, lighting, widening, all that kind of stuff. And then the subdivision, or the land development became an issue. So that's why it was a little backwards when the Planning Commission reviewed it.
So you're good with not having those conditions on the subdivision?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 3, we're being requested to provide a copy of the plan to PennDOT for their comments. We have no PennDOT improvements. We're not working in the PennDOT right away. We're, not being oppositional here. We just don't want to get stuck in a position where we're going to PennDOT for not being in there right away and getting comments or belaboring the approvals.
So I have a question on that one. Why would that be a condition, John or Randall?
their stormwater will directly connect to the stormwater system that's out in 30, and it will be changed as a result of this plan. And anytime there's new piping going to inlets that are now in our right-of-way, but they discharge to the PennDOT stormwater system, and I believe PennDOT would want to know about that.
Is that
Do we
part
know
of
if
the
PennDOT
subdivision?
requires that by regulation?
It's a part of PennDOT's MS4 system, yes.
Well, we're tying to the township system, number one, and then number two, the amount of water that's going to that township system from our site is highly reduced. There's much less going there based on us adhering to your stormwater management. So, if we were adding more water to that system, I would agree that we would be adding more water downstream to PennDOT's system. But we are connecting by pipe. We're connecting by pipe to the township's inlet. Currently, all the water on that site now flows to that inlet, and the pipe that we're connecting is significantly reducing the amount of water going to that system. So, again, I would request that requirement be removed.
I wouldn't mind saying something if you
Please.
allow. And we've had this discussion before. Our ordinance does not differentiate between a land development and a subdivision plan. The same ordinances apply to each type of submission, and that's why these conditions are listed there. They don't differentiate between the two types of plans. This is what's required per the ordinance. Otherwise, a waiver would have to be requested and granted by the Board of Supervisors.
So again, Tom, I think you said conditions 1, 2, 6, 8, 9, 12, 13 are going to be addressed in the land development plan. And John, I think you concurred with that, correct?
And,
I did
and
say
for
that.
For that
that-
matter, number three will too. That's another condition of the land development plan, but it's on this one. So as far as this is concerned, number three is in that same issue. We can have that, we can have this comment, we can have this discussion about the PennDOT comment when we get to the land development plan in a minute.
If we don't make
Yeah,
them
well-
conditions here, we can make them conditions in the land development.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Just to make sure we're covered.
Yeah, understood. Part of my rationale here was that the Planning Commission recommended disapproval of the land development plan, and I also did that in my plan summary. So knowing that, I had to make sure that the bases were covered for the subdivision plan. From my vantage point, that if in fact I was recommending approval of the subdivision plan, then these are the requirements that needed to be adhered to. And I stipulated as well of what waiver modifications that I would recommend disapproval of and also approval of.
Okay.
And we'll work through the logistics of difference between subdivision and land development with staff outside of this meeting. It does seem a little overkill to have 15, 16 or more waivers just because you're doing a subdivision and not developing the land. I mean, we can't provide a photometric plan on every subdivision we do if there's no development being proposed, along with these other items as well. So we can work through that kind of logistic stuff, how things get done outside of this meeting. But we'd appreciate any help with that based on the fact that the subdivision plan is not proposing anything but a change in lot lines.
So that's a good point for our comprehensive plan committee.
So I guess my concern is if we approve a subdivision plan and do not approve the land development plan, then we have to be prepared to live with that subdivision plan. And I think that
Correct.
was Randall's concern, and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
So help me understand how approving the subdivision plan changes anything at this point.
Yeah, that's exactly my question. It certainly changes something.
I'll defer to the.
Changes
the-
property use.
Yeah,
Potential property use.
Potential, right.
The subdivision as it stands
It's
is only combining the two lots to the east.
Right.
And I'll defer to the legal minds in the room as to whether or not, what that does long-term. A subdivision can get approved and recorded, and it doesn't necessarily mean those lots are combined or separated until deeds are written. In my opinion, I could be wrong. I'll defer.
You're just changing lines right
Yeah.
now. But again,
Right.
the way that the plan was put forward, this needed to happen because there was no agreement to merge all three lots together.
Right.
That's why this is coming together the way it is. This needs to happen in order for the land development to occur. Without or however you want to refer to it, the subdivision occurring, if that's not approved, then the land development
doesn't
becomes
happen.
moot
Right.
at that point in time.
And if it makes it easier, we'll allow you to defer the subdivision until after you act on the land development. I don't think we have any issues with that.
I mean, you've essentially covered, and Attorney Temevi, you've covered both in your presentation here. I don't think we're reinventing the wheel by voting on this and then rolling over to the land development and re-presenting again. I think
We have no
everybody's.
more presentation.
No, you're.
We have very little presentation left.
Yeah, we don't
We
need
have presented
another one.
for a long time.
I think we understand the total of
Yes.
the issue here.
So my suggestion is if the land development is where the issues are really occurring, that's what really should be addressed immediately.
Okay.
And then the subdivision, you don't have to, there's no sense in kind of reshuffling the chairs on the deck,
If
for
we're
lack
not
of a
gonna
better
do the
term,
land
if you're not going to
development.
do it. That's right.
All right, so let's move to land development then.
So if we go back to my original waiver discussion, I think the Planning Commission recommended approval of all the waivers with the exception of the traffic study. We asked for a modification of the traffic study to not study North Hills Road and Route 30. We asked for that for a number of reasons. One, we met with the township on two occasions and discussed this, and it was our impression, and we emailed that to the staff, that we didn't have to do that because everybody agreed that there was no reason to study that intersection. We know it doesn't work. We're not necessarily impacting it, and there's really nothing we can do to fix that intersection. There's no room to widen anything. There's no lanes to add. And as far as the traffic signals go, as my colleague John Seitz mentioned earlier, it is an interactive system, starting with that light all the way through the Route 30 bypass to Manchester or to West Manchester Township. So there's no timing to adjust because it adjusts all the time on its own. So based on that, we requested this waiver, and then it was I don't know. I think John wants to see it, but we have we have those reasons to not do it. And at the end of the day, I guess we can do it, but there's not going to be anything. Any of those findings are going to help this project, help that intersection, and there's nothing that we can do at that intersection to improve it. That's kind of on PennDOT to figure out.
right, so why don't we dive into these then? I mean, we've talked about traffic study.
Yep. Conditions of approval, there's really only two issues here to talk about. The first one is a photometric plan. We've worked through a photometric plan 2 or 3 times. It's very difficult to make a photometric plan meet this criteria of 1.5-foot candles or 7 all over the parking lot, and then having the entrances lit, which this section of the ordinance 325 155A kind of says we have to light the entrances, but then it also says we can't have any glare leaving the site onto the road right away. So it's kind of in conflict of each other. We're currently working on another. We have a photometric pack that we use on all these on this car wash everywhere we go. It works fine. At the same time, we're working through a different one right now, and I believe it just came through in the email tonight while we were sitting here. That's a completely different photo pack that the developer uses, but we'll take a look at that. But that is forthcoming. Obviously, we'll post financial security. Number 3 is the safe site distance. If we get to a point here this evening where the board is comfortable voting in approval of this project, I would assume that we would have to request a waiver of that in some way. Number 4, this comment's been on the list from the very beginning, but it's been taken care of months ago. You've got your 60-foot right-of-way on Whiteford. We provided that, and in our notes on the front page, we addressed the lot coverage and building coverage based on, and landscaping coverage, I should say, based on that right-of-way taking. Number 5 is a comment about the access drive and needing to know how many trips we have coming in and out in order to determine what type of driveway that would be, low volume, medium volume, high volume. And again, this information was in our initial traffic impact study. It's there. It's a low volume driveway. It's less than 700 trips a day. It's been there. It's in that study, and we're hoping that no longer is a condition, or if it is, that it's found in that traffic study. And then providing data for the sewer rim. There's a sewer manhole that's in the middle of the intersection of North Hills and Route 30. We weren't able to open it up. We weren't able to, first of all, we couldn't open it. Second of all, we were out there when it was, very off hours, early in the morning. Second, we asked the township for some assistance to stop traffic so we could get out there and to help us open it. We were out there with your sewer staff yesterday and determined that it wasn't worth opening that manhole up, that we could do a test dig on the sewer line on our site to determine that elevation and be able to tie into it. So we feel like that's been taken care of as well. I think at this point, we're just looking at item 1 and 3 as conditions of approval, and then the traffic impact study modification, not a waiver. We did do a traffic impact study. We're just requesting not to have to study the intersection that we can't fix.
Which still means you need a waiver, right, Tom?
We'll, yeah, if that helps.
Waiver or
we will-
modification?
Modification. We can add that to the plan. And we have.
So, I'm sorry, Tom, can
We've submitted that. That was part of our initial submission. So the waiver is existing, the waiver request, or the modification to the waiver.
All right, I hear what you're saying. So could we go through those conditions again? You can live with as conditions on the plan, if I heard you correctly. 2, 4, 5, and 6?
Yes. 1 and 3 are the conditions that we. 1 is the condition of the photometric plan. We're working through that. That'll be done. That is done as of now. We just have to submit it to John and the staff. And then number 3, I think goes away. Well, I guess that's a waiver. we need to provide a waiver for that.
So if I understand, we want to see a photometric plan, but I think the condition what I hear you're saying is the condition on the photometric plan that the township's asking for is not going to work. So I guess we need it conditioned on a revised photometric plan
Or
that
you need
is
a
not going to be township
modification of the
ordinance
requirements.
compliant. Is that my understanding?
At this point, I think we're going to make the photometric plan work. Is that right, Sandy? We can do that.
You can make it work within the ordinance.
I think we're doing our best. We're not going to be able to put,
Okay.
I mean, we're going to have to get feedback on what we do at the entrance, but I think we can work through that. I've never had an issue with a
Okay, so then
photometric
that
plan in
would-
my life.
That would be a regular condition.
Correct.
Okay. So we're just down to 3 being a waiver on the condition side.
Yes. Sorry, I was nodding my head.
It's all right. I want to make sure I got them right. All right, well, I have no further comments or questions, Mr. Chairman.
Charles, I don't understand what you just said a couple of seconds ago, that we were going to change condition number 3 into a waiver instead of a condition? Is that what you said?
That's kind of what Tom was saying.
That's what we're requesting.
Okay.
So rather it be, they don't want, staff wants that to be 3 to be a condition. They're asking for the waiver.
But they're also saying that they think they can meet the regulation, maybe based on new information that they just got during this meeting.
No, that's
That was
for,
the photometric plan.
That's photometric.
that's for item 1,
That's photometric. That's
Supervisor
condition
Bishop.
1. Condition 3 is the site issue. Sight line issue and traffic. I mean, so in my perspective, Don, the site is what it is. The traffic sites are what they are, and it's up to this board to decide if we can live with that.
Right, okay.
So if it remains a condition, the plan isn't going to be able to pass, and if it is made a waiver, then there's a chance. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's correct.
That is my understanding.
And it really boils down to that.
Yeah, they're just unable to meet the condition of item 3. It's just not
So I guess-
physically possible.
Can somebody get, Bob, I can barely hear you every time you talk.
Sorry, I'm an
And
old
seems-
man, Don.
Seems like
Come on.
sometimes you have something really good to say.
And I can't work the technology.
I was just saying, Don, that condition 3 is impossible for them to meet because there's just not enough distance between the exit
Right.
place and the intersection at North Hills.
Yeah, and if you were going to make any change to that property at all and try to put anything else in there, we would have the same issue.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Mr. Chairman, with regard to plan number LD 2024-0004, I move to approve the following waivers, modifications. Section 289-10 preliminary plan, section 289-11.C6 landscape and buffer yard, section 289-13A plan scale, section 289-13A 24 landscaping plan, section 289-21 traffic study, section 289-26 monuments to be concrete, section 289-31A installation of 8-inch high reveal for vertical curb, section 289-41A4 proposed street system, section 289-41F6 minimum curb radii, section 281-15F3C maximum impervious loading ratio, and section 289-41A4, the required site distance matter as a waiver.
At that, Dory?
Right, it's all 10 on the waiver sheet plus a waiver for what is presently condition 3.
Were we going to add a modification for the photometric plan? Or we don't need to? You're sure? You
I was
said you
going
just
to
got an
handle that in
email.
conditions.
If it's on the table, we would certainly request a modification of that. We're very, very close. We can get it 99% there. So, yeah, if we could get a
Can we
a
put
modification.
99% on the?
So
So we'll leave it the way it is. Leave it as a condition.
Perfect.
yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to go with it, so that they get it.
Okay. So we have the 10 waivers and modifications listed, plus the waiver for number 3 in the conditions, the safe site distance. Any other discussion?
Correct.
I have a question.
Obviously.
Do we want to,
go ahead, Bob.
do we want to make part of the approval them sharpening the corner of North Hills Road and Whiteford Road to slow traffic turning off of North Hills onto Whiteford Road?
Isn't that what the plan is that we're looking at?
No,
No.
Yeah, that
no.
is the plan.
no,
No,
not
the
yet.
the
No?
sharpening of the turn and the speed limit were something we offered up that was to the staff and the planning commission that was never acted on, never acted.
You, I think, built your whole case on that from the very beginning of this discussion.
Yeah, no, I mean,
So-
we can do it. It's,
I guess I'm a little taken aback.
That's why I brought it up.
So,
It just was, we brought it, we've been bringing it up the entire time.
Sure.
And no
Well, you're offering it, that's why
Yeah,
I
we're
said,
offering that
why
as
don't
a-
we,
Right,
why don't we
right.
make that one of the
Yeah,
conditions?
that's-
yeah, so you can add those as
As
conditions of
conditions.
approval.
Okay, so we're not at conditions yet. We're still
No,
at
what you've
waivers.
done is you're just at the
We're at
waivers,
waivers.
1 through 10, and you added,
Plus,
you've
a
moved
waiver.
3 up to
Yes.
become a waiver.
correct.
And we're not opposed to that at all. I just wanted to make it clear, that's not what you were looking at. That stuff, the curve is not on the plans now. It
Now,
will
the
be.
change of speed limit, however, is a different matter. That would have to go through the township and through our ordinances, although I like the recommendation, and we don't have to condition the plan for that. We can
And
do that at
Mark,
any
that's
time.
on
Is
us,
that
right?
correct, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to conduct you'd have to get chief to conduct a speed study, and then we'd have to amend the ordinance for that section of the roadway,
Yeah.
if that's what the board so chose.
We have no issue with those, with that condition.
Conditioned upon the township doing something.
I get the levity there. I was referring to the curve, but yeah.
All right.
If the
So we're-
township wants to do the curve too, we'll put up
Oh.
with that.
That's going to be on you. All right, any other questions, discussion? We have a motion.
I will make one point. I don't have any problem specifically with what's on the table right now, but I will comment that I do not believe that in any way this land development will make Springettsbury Township safer or better. I don't think there's anything here. There's been a lot of points made that, that these empty buildings are a problem or whatever. But I don't think I think this is going to cause horrible traffic problems. I don't think this makes Springettsbury Township any safer, and I don't think it makes our community any better.
So I would submit that I appreciate the redevelopment opportunity here. We are reducing our impervious surface as part of this, which is also an important element of our overall MS4 strategy as a township. And I think this does enhance a very good corner of Route 30 here within the township. And I think it is probably a highest and best use of this particular site. And so that's why I'm happy to support this project.
Okay, we have several opinions and a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? I didn't hear Don. Either way.
I didn't either. I didn't hear the second either. Sorry, I missed that.
That was George.
I don't have any problem with the waivers. I
All right. So the waivers pass unanimous. All right, conditions.
Mr. Chairman, with respect to plan number LD 2024-0004, I move for approval of the following conditions. I just lost my place. Section 289
Hold on a second, Charles.
I think what you're doing is approving the plan with the following conditions. It's not approval of each condition.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the plan with the following condition.
Thank you.
Yep.
Section 289-10A, 2D, and 325-155.A, photometric plan. Section 289-12C and 289-38B, financial security. Section 289-41C1, clarify a minor collector road. Section 289-41J6 and Section 289-41J7B, access drive. Section 289-48, data on existing sanitary sewer rim. And the new condition, which I do not have the specific ordinance, we can add that later, but that's sharpen the corner on North Hills Road, Whiteford Road, as discussed and offered by Site Design Concepts.
Is that exact enough? I mean, that's kind of.
It is because we have you on, we have a record of your presentation of the sharpening of the corner, and I believe you presented a sketch plan of that, correct?
No, but we're going to sharpen the corner.
Okay, all right. Yes.
And that would be reflected in a revised plan, correct, Tom?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then I would incorporate then that it would be reflected in a revised plan.
Correct.
I guess that might be overkill, but we've got it conditioned. Satisfied with that, James?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, so George seconded. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 no.
Okay, we have 4 ayes and 1 no. All right, back to subdivision. All right, which of these remain now? We we still need the preliminary plan. Landscaping and buffer yards are shown in the land development. Plan scale, we still need. Landscaping plan, again, is in land development. Environmental impact studies.
We provided that in the land development.
Excuse me?
We provided that in the land development.
Feasibility report was in land development.
Correct.
Monuments, I think that modification is, from other discussions we've had, John, we don't touch pins that exist. We only put in monuments where there is nothing.
Correct.
So that modification is valid. Sidewalks have been, they're part of the land development plan.
They are.
Streetlights, part
Are
of
in
the
land development plan.
land development plan. So we're down to preliminary plan, plan scale, monuments,
Which we already waived. Land development, so I guess we gotta waive them here, right?
the monuments, plan scale for SD and preliminary plan for SD. Is that correct? We still need those.
Those three?
I mean, I thought the monuments was in the land development already.
Was it?
It
Well,
is.
We're changing it
Yes.
with the subdivision.
It does.
It
if you
doesn't-
waive it a second time, it really, we're just double waiving it.
Hey, you tell me.
It's fine. If you want to waive it, that's fine.
It just, it feels like it belongs in subdivision.
I agree. I agree with you.
Okay, so 1, 3, and 7.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to subdivision 2024-0003, I move for approval of the following waivers. Section 28910 preliminary plan, section 28913A plan scale, and section 28926 monuments to be concrete.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second it.
George, second it. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Carries unanimous. Now, what conditions are remaining? Photometric plan is in land development, stormwater management plan, land development. We don't need the PennDOT stuff, right? Or John, are you challenging that?
They are connecting into our inlet, and our inlet connects into the PennDOT system.
So we're
You
okay,
don't
or
need
do
that
we?
condition.
Okay. Inlet, outlet, and rim elevations for manholes. Is that? That's the one you said you were going to determine on site when you,
Yes, we have an agreement with your staff on that one. Just a matter, I don't know if that needs to be documented or what, but that's what we,
so that can remain a condition.
if we could just change it to test pit on site during construction.
I'm
fine with that.
I'm looking at the
Okay,
public,
all right, so,
Public Works former wastewater director, and I'll take his lead, so yes. I'm sure there's some
okay.
record drawings.
So
that
number
might help
4
us.
is to be determined with a test pit on site. And it's conditioned on that. Update subdivision plan to show all existing streets,
That's
blah, blah,
been
blah.
completed. I mean,
That's been done?
That's been on the plans for
So you don't need that. Location of existing stormwater facilities on site.
LD. Well, we show those of existing
you
stormwater
show
facilities.
those.
They're on there.
Building setbacks you've shown.
Yes.
Access and profile of driveways.
So we haven't shown profiles of the existing driveways. It seems kind of unnecessary to we show the locations, but profiles of the existing driveways that are going to be
Scraped.
they are what they are anyway, right? I mean, and they are going to be scraped.
As long as John's fine.
I'm looking at sheet C9. That's for the proposed driveway, so you have them in the land development.
Yeah, they're the proposed.
You have proposed in land development.
Yeah.
We don't really need the existing ones, do we, John?
No, sir.
Plans and profiles of proposed sanitary and/or stormwater sewers with grades and pipe sizes.
That would be more
Land
applicable to
development.
land development.
Curbing,
We show that on all the existing streets.
fire hydrants, are they on there?
I don't know.
We
that
did
there
not
are
condition LD on that. I think we need to keep fire hydrants.
So we've not received anything from the
Fire department.
From the fire department. I mean, I don't know. Randall, will we get comments from the fire department?
They generally come in the building permit application rather than Chief Maslin weighing in on the actual subdivision or land development plan. He obviously sat in on a variety of these meetings, and I don't recall that he stated anything in that regard. However, you may want to check with that for verification purposes.
Okay.
Let's leave that as a condition. Financial guarantee condition.
Do we have a financial guarantee? Do we have anything to?
Not on the subdivision, on the land development.
Yeah.
Is that on there?
Yeah.
Okay, so that. And we've got safe distances for existing drives.
We're gonna
Don't,
close
we're
one.
gonna close it and
think it'll
it's gonna be the new site distances on the land development. All right, so are we clear on that?
I heard 1, 4, and 11 for modified to be test pit on site. Did I miss any conditions?
I think the photometric plan is coming as part of the land development. This is the subdivision.
You're right.
So I think we're at 4 and 11.
Okay, that's the way I read it.
Thank you.
Good with that, Charles?
Mr. Chairman, with regard to SD 2024-0003, I move for approval of the plan subject to the following conditions. Section 289-11B19, with the provision of a test pit on site, and section 289-34, update the plan to include needed fire hydrants with information requirements of York Area 9 Fire and Rescue.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. And
That was painful.
very much appreciate
Thank you, gentlemen.
your time and the discussion. And please know that your planning commission worked very hard on this as well. And we appreciate their effort and patience with us. So thank you very much. And on behalf of
And
every-
just so, I mean, you understand, they're absolutely right,
Yep. Yes.
but there's nothing else that could go there if we're gonna put a development there and clean that corner up. This is the only way to handle it.
Understood. Understood.
Yeah.
I think we all did our best here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And on
Thanks for
behalf of
working
our
with us.
team, our apologies to the board and all the people behind us on the agenda. I've been in your shoes before. It's not fun. Thank you.
That's right.
All right, next we have Monarch Development Group LLC, authorization to submit proposed zoning ordinance text amendments to the York County Planning Commission and Spring-Spray Township Planning Commission for review for 2899 Whiteford Road.
Mis-
Chairman, we have item C.
Oh, we have item C. Sorry, thank you. SD 2024-0002. Gradison Management LLC at 1201 Memory Lane Extended.
Yes, this is a three-lot subdivision plan. This currently is one lot, and they're looking to subdivide it into three different parcels. Two out of the three parcels will have businesses and apartments on the lots. There are existing activities on the one lot. There's two apartment buildings, and then there's also bear with me here one second, I lost an office building on the one site. And then lot 3 is the one that is currently, well, proposed is vacant. And a future land development plan would be proposed in the future for that lot. And we do have representation here this evening. The consultant is Clark Cromer, and he will be making a presentation in regard to this three-lot subdivision plan. Mr. Cromer.
Yes, good evening. My name is Clark Cromer. I'm the surveyor for the project. Basically, you have it, right now it's one existing lot with an apartment building on one end, on the east side of the property, and then there's an office building in the center of the property. Basically, this is just a subdivision plan which is proposing to put the apartment on lot 1, the office building on lot 2, and lot 3 would be a vacant lot, and which would be developed in the future, at which time a land development plan would have to be done to show what would fit on that lot. There's no changes to any of the driveways or the buildings. Everything will remain the same as what it's used for now. The apartments have their own access to Memory Lane, and the office building right now has access to Whiteford Road and access to Pleasant Valley. So most of the waivers are requested because there are no improvements, and the waivers would most likely be taken care of with a land development plan when Lot 3 is developed.
The only improvement that is shown, I'm sorry, the only improvement that is shown is there's a proposed handicap ramp at the intersection of Memory Lane Extended and Whiteford Road that you're gonna construct. And the reason is because Caliber Collision went in across the street. They have a handicap ramp, so we had you add the handicap ramp across the street from it.
Questions or comments, gentlemen?
Just one question. The new Lot 1 and new Lot 2, do they currently meet the sidewalk and curbing and streetlight requirements?
Lots 1 and 2 have sidewalk. It's older sidewalk, but they do have sidewalk.
Okay, streetlight?
They do not have streetlights in that general area.
So the waiver request says for street lighting that lots 1 and 2 have existing lights on the property serving the existing apartment buildings and existing commercial building. Is that correct or isn't it?
Yes, basically the waiver is for any lighting for Lot 3.
And I think, let me differentiate. So they have the old Bel Paez restaurant had illumination of their parking lot, and the apartments have some illumination of their lot also. But what
But
we're
that's not,
talking about is
that doesn't fit the definition of street lighting. Is that what you're saying?
Right, that's not a street light. A street light is a light that is placed out along the street and to illuminate the pedestrian area and the street. And then we enact they're unmetered, so they operate all the time. And then through our street light tax, we recover cost. The developer doesn't pay that, but they become a facility of the township effectively.
So just to be clear, if we waive it here for subdivision, doesn't mean that we've waived it for any future land development, correct?
Right, and that is correct. And the only potential for land development, additional land development effectively, is really more than likely Lot 3.
So if we waive it here, we're also waiving any requirements for lots 1 and 2 that would have no future or land development.
Correct, they're developed.
But could you put a condition on that during the land development that they install the street lights on lots 1 and 2?
Or is that,
At that time, it would be an off-site
Yeah, because
improvement.
potentially,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm thinking through, because it's contiguous property. I'm not certain that you can make that requirement. I don't believe
No,
you
I
can
don't
make
think
but we
could.
could put that on the divided lot, a note to.
On 3?
On 3 and on,
And you could put
2.
notes on 1 and 2 saying if
Yeah.
there's any further land development that occurs on 1 and 2, the streetlights would be required. 'Cause
can you
my
put a
understand-
condition on there that the township can request it within a certain period of time?
Of land development approval?
No, I'm talking about lots 1 and 2. To break them off, can each one of them have a note on it that the township can require that with 60-day notice or whatever?
At any point in time is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Or-
I mean, we do that now with land development where we put a note on a plan that sidewalks can be required with 60-day notice or 30-day, whatever the notice is.
6 months, 6 months.
6 months.
6 months.
6-month notice.
Yeah, I don't see an issue with that.
Which means then the township has the option in perpetuity to whether we want streetlights, but then when we want them, we'll give you a
To
6 month
remedy that
notice.
area
Yes.
if we need to at some point in the
Yes.
future.
Yes.
We waive it for the subdivision, subject to the condition that we put a 6 month note on all 3 parcels.
No, we, We don't waive it.
I guess we don't waive it. We
don't
don't
waive it.
waive it.
Correct.
We condition a 6-month note.
You put
It's a
you put a
condition.
6-month note as the condition, and you're not doing the waiver.
Right. That's why they don't have to do it at subdivision approval. Got it.
So how do we make sure that actually happens?
Yeah, that's a good point. The same for the curbing and buffer yard.
We record all plans.
I just asked Mark that question recently. We had one that we required that was down at First Post, right? We had a note on their plan from a number of years back.
So to answer Mr. Bishop's question directly, it requires somebody to remember to go back to look to see if the plan had a note on it. So if that's going to be long in the future, it's going to require probably some sort of thing to spur it on.
But if we ended up getting a restaurant on that corner and then people started walking from the adjacent dealerships and other things in the area, and we could say, okay, now there's sufficient foot traffic there and that would probably trigger a search to say, what can we do there?
Correct. It'd be something that spurs.
But it would have to be something that really.
Right. 2 years from now, we'll probably remember it. 20 years from now, we probably wouldn't.
I mean, that's.
I mean, it doesn't happen often that we go back and make somebody do this, but it is something.
It is part of the record, and any title search that would happen.
Right.
Regardless of what goes in there, is going to see that on the plan. The question is, whomever is the sitting board of supervisors at the time, are they going to catch it, and are they going to want to emphasize it? And to your point, it's only going to be brought up when somebody comes up to the podium here during public comment and says, hey, it's really dangerous walking around that area, and I'd really like some lights there.
And then whoever's sitting in my spot turns to whoever's sitting in his spot and says, do we have
Yes.
any notes on the plan that we can make this happen?
I would hope they're as perceptive and Johnny on the spot as you are, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Solicitor.
So I have a question of that note. We basically rely on our staff to check those notes and to make sure that the wording that's actually recorded on these plans for someone to look up 20 years from now is what we intended. Is that pretty much how that works?
Yes.
Or does this have to be like part of a motion, or what's the mechanics of that?
We have been making those type of motions in the past, including the
lot of
the
them.
notes, for the 6-month notes, and then we make sure that that's written in a precise, so it's understood what's going to be required potentially in the future.
So, Mr. Bishop, you would approve the plan with a note tonight. That doesn't mean you're signing the plan. It means that you're approving it. You're gonna come back with the plan and the note and the language. I would hope the language would be sent prior for review on it. Especially, and as long as the language is good, then the plan would be up for signature. That's the mechanics of that, Mr. Bishop.
Sorry, I didn't follow that at all.
So you would approve the plan tonight.
Right.
With
the
subject
condition.
to the note. Okay?
Subject to the note being put on the plan.
Subject to the note being put on the plan. The note verbiage would then be presented to Mr. Hodgkinson. He would probably refer it over to me. I would read it. I would say, yes, makes sense, or no, I'd like this language. It would then go back, and then we could certainly share that with the board if you would like to see that note language first. But then once
Never
that's...
happened in the last 25 years I've been here, but that's okay.
But once that happens, then the plan is presented for signature.
So the very beginning of that process, where does the note come from?
The note's coming
Before it-
from the developer.
Okay, got it. They proposed the note.
Yes. I mean, I
Okay.
can certainly propose it, but we're going to have a back and
Right,
forth.
yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
We've basically utilized standard language for
Yeah.
all of these now. There's nothing that I don't see that we would need to change here. This would be applicable just like the other ones were.
Anything else on here that anybody wants to have a discussion about?
So again, Mr. Chairman, I think when we're looking at this, we have street lighting, curbing, buffer yards, all kind of fit in that 6-month note category, if I'm correct in understanding, right?
So there's curbing along that road, isn't there?
Yes.
Along Whiteford, and there's curbing along,
It's already curbing.
all three streets have curbing along them. The only one that does not have sidewalk is the undeveloped lot number 3.
Which again,
So I think it's just the street lighting.
street lighting is by definition technically absent, is what we determined. On all 3 parcels, there's no, I guess if you have land development plan, you're gonna have curbing and you're gonna have buffer yard. Presumably. Mr. Chairman, with regard to SD 2024-0002, I move for approval of the plan subject to the following waivers. Section 28910, Section 28911B24, Section 28911C2, Section 28911C7, Section 28913B4, subject to a condition of a 6-month note to follow. Section 28921, Section 28931A, Section 28935C, Section 28944D.
So, Mr. Worster, I believe you were making a motion to approve waivers first?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. I just wanted to clarify because I thought I heard approval of the plan subject to waivers, but we're approving the waivers first, correct?
We're approving the waivers, but I did mention as a waiver, just for clarity's sake, that there would be a subsequent condition on the streetlights to follow.
Yes, and that would be part of, the condition would be part of the approval of the plan. So if I may,
Right.
your motion is to approve the waivers as listed out, not the plan subject to the waivers.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
My subject to was just editorial comment, not part of the motion.
Got it.
Okay, so we are waiving the street lights
Because we're gonna put a
conditioned
condition
Because you're gonna
on
put
the
a
plan
condition.
that you have to have the notes.
Okay,
Or do those conflict, James?
don't we typically just put it in the conditions?
You put it in the conditions. You can remove that
Yeah.
waiver.
Why don't we remove the waiver?
Yeah.
Move it to
Okay.
conditions.
All right. So I amend my motion. It is all the waivers is listed with the exception of
Number 5.
section or waiver number 5. Section 28913B for
Yes.
street lighting.
Yep.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we have conditions.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to subdivision 2024-0002, Move approval of the plan subject to the following conditions. Section 289-11B5, Section 289-11B11, and Section 289-13B3. Section 289-12.c, Section 289-31A, Section 289-35C, Section 289-32, Section 289-41J10C, Section 289-41J11C, and Section 289-13B4, street lighting. All three lots shall have a 6-month note of installation of street lighting upon township request, and said note to be developed by the developer and approved by township.
Perfect.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you. All right, now we go to Monarch Development Group, LLC, authorization to submit proposed zoning ordinance text amendments to the York County Planning Commission and Springersbury Township Planning Commission for review for 2899 Whiteford Road.
I have provided a memorandum to the Board of Supervisors that provides a synopsis, if you will, of what the applicant is requesting on behalf of the developer. And I did provide a recommendation, if you will, of the Board of Supervisors accepting the text amendment for review only. This is not approval in any way of the ordinance itself. It's just accepting the ordinance for review purposes to the two planning entities. And with that said, I have the attorney with Barley Snyder here to represent the application, as well as the developer with Monarch Development. I think it's Brandon Johnson, if I recall correctly, is also in attendance. So he is available to answer questions as well. With that said, I'm going to turn it over to the attorney.
Hi, good evening. My name's Alex Otto. I'm an attorney with Barley Snyder, and I'm here representing Monarch Development Group, along with Brandon Johnson of Monarch Development Group. Randall gave a great summary, and his memorandums are good, and they summarize what we're looking for. But we're essentially just looking for your authorization to submit our proposed text amendment to YCPC, York County Planning Commission, and your Township Planning Commission for review. As set forth in our application, the text amendment proposes to amend sections of the ordinance applicable to the Flexible Development District to create more flexible parking and height requirements. Now, in conjunction with our text amendment application, we also submitted an application to have the Flexible Development Overlay District applied to a 2.5 acre piece of property currently zoned CH District. But tonight, we're not asking for any action on the Flexible Development Overlay District application, but we did submit it in conjunction with our text amendment because they're related. And the goal with both of those applications is to submit them together before your planning commission and eventually this board again, and discuss them in conjunction with one another since they're related. But that all assumes that you authorize the text amendment to go to York County Planning Commission and your planning commission tonight.
Questions or concerns? Approving this doesn't imply anything.
No, and just, I want to emphasize the point that although it looks like there's 2 submissions and there's action for 2 items, there's no action for the flexible development overlay. As they discussed when they came in and, you presented several months ago this plan saying that both of these submissions need to happen at the same time to make it, the process efficient. What you need to, the only thing you're taking action on tonight is the text amendment. And per section 325, 192, C, where is it? C3, upon receipt of a petition and the payment of the fee, the zoning officer shall cause the petition to be scheduled as an item for preliminary action at the next regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors convening not less than 10 days following the filing of the petition. So basically, you're blessing its start of the process. That's all you're approving tonight. Nothing else is being approved.
Anybody want to venture a motion?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I'll move for authorization to submit the proposed zoning ordinance text amendments to the York County Planning Commission and the Springersbury Township Planning Commission for review at 2899 Whiteford Road.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So what do we do with the flexible development? Nothing.
It's there for informational purposes only. If you have questions for Attorney Otto or Mr. Johnson, you can certainly ask them at your leisure, but again, you have a review process that has been initiated, so my suggestion would be to let the review process play out.
Thank you.
That will be correct. I plan to have that on the agenda. I will be submitting this to the York County Planning Commission tomorrow for the text amendment. So they will have it to place on their upcoming Planning Commission agenda.
Thank you. Thank you. Communication from supervisors. Solicitor's report.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to echo your comments on the bravery of our officers in that very horrific event earlier over the weekend. I think it's important that we do salute those officers for their bravery and their service, and not only ours, the 3 involved from Springersbury, or I guess there were 4, but all of the first responders who responded and dealt with that situation.
Wholeheartedly agree. And I mentioned the members in blue in the back of the room, but there were doctors and nurses in the ER that were affected and many other people. So they should all be recognized. They have a dangerous job too.
Yeah.
Anyone else? James?
Nothing further from my report unless there's any questions.
Any questions? When's this PA American Water thing going to be done?
I will say the dialogue has been good. It's more consistent. I believe that we are talking with the decision makers at PA American Water. I think that's fair to say that, Mark. But like anything else, they are a large publicly traded corporation, and we've made some requests, and maybe they need a little efficiency effort to move their process forward. But they do have our latest proposal, and hopefully they understand what the need is. So I'm hoping soon, but
our rates don't go up while we're in negotiations.
We are subject to the contract as it is currently in existence.
Okay. so we can keep going.
Yes.
Nothing with chickens.
What I would, if I may, just quickly, since you did bring that up, I have taken a reasonable amount of calls on that lately, asking if chickens can be in our residential districts, specifically our smaller residential districts. And maybe egg prices have something to do with it, possibly. However, I think we've gotten other rationale behind it besides that specifically, but that has come in here lately, and we've known that this is something that we need to address in our new zoning ordinance in some capacity. And that's obviously for a decision between the steering committee and the board of supervisors to determine what that may be.
Managers report, Mark.
I do not have anything to add to my written report.
Questions for the manager? Ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 2025-05, amending Chapter 312, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 4, General Parking Regulations, spring its retreat.
Mr. Chairman, this has been advertised as required and is ready for adoption.
Move for the adoption of ordinance 2025-05.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution number 2025-35, recognition of Brian Wilbur. Better vote on it. We just gave him the
Doesn't he have to be
certificate
present
signed by
for us
all
to
of us.
approve this? I move for the adoption of Resolution 2025-35, recognition of Brian Wilbur.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anything we need to talk about in old business?
Chickens?
New business, police pension fund discussion.
One of the things that I took notice of at the last police pension meeting, which would have been 3 months ago, was the significant underperformance of that fund over all the periods of measurement that they provided when you measured their performance against the benchmarks that were set up for that fund. And it got my attention to the point that no matter which, since every time period they were deficient, it got me thinking that maybe we as a board should at least talk about, what are our options with that pension fund. So since that time, I sit on the Yalfer Pension Board, and they had their meeting going over December 31st results. So at tonight's Spring-Itsbury meeting, we had the slide that showed what the returns were for FNB over various time periods, and I just quickly, because I just got them tonight, matched those up against the fire. And it's safe to say that the police pension fund is not only underperforming against its own benchmarks, but it's also underperforming against what the fire pension fund's doing. And so I think at the very least, we ought to have a conversation about what if anything, do we do about that? Now, the only caveats I will throw into that is that there have been changes to the management of both funds over the years, where the boards of both those pension funds have directed changes into how the asset allocations were set up. So I know I think in both cases, we've asked the managers to become more aggressive with equities. I think at one time they might have been, something like a 50% stock, 50% fixed income, and both boards approved both managers at some point in time to change that allocation. So how much of that plays into the underperformance, I don't know. So I don't want to sit here and cast stones at FNB and say they're doing a poor job, but there's certainly enough data to suggest we should take a deeper dive perhaps and see whether we have the funds with the right organization. I didn't do any calculation. I'm sure we could do calculations, say, well, if you've underperformed by 150 basis points every year for the last 10 years, how many dollars does that translate into in lost dollars in the police pension fund? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure we could calculate that, but I would suggest to you that if it is that much over 10 years, that is probably really significant dollars when you're underperforming by that much every year over a 10-year period.
Makes sense.
So I would offer these comments. George, I think you have a very interesting topic. I think you were one of a two-part team of geniuses along with Lester Rhodes that participated in redoing the Yoffers investment policy. And I think that did yield some very significant results. You were correct. I think that would allow us to do a little bit more equity investments and even alternative investments. I think that became a better option with regard to that fund. Relative to the Springersbury Fund, recall, I think our investment policy here requires that we hold X number, I think 40 individual stocks, and that may be a hamper in and of itself to returns. It does somewhat tie, I think, management's hands in terms of ability. But, of course, you can pick all the right stocks and you're fine, but I think that that requirement might be where we want to look, certainly at the investment policy as a starter, before we start looking at management.
One of the things that I've hoped that we would get from our investment advisor here in Springersbury, at least, was their recommendations on what our investment policy should be. Now, I don't know if that's where we should be looking for that kind of advice, but I know that we've sought it out in the past, and I think George is trying to give them the benefit of the doubt of whether the investment policy held them back or not. But I think every time we looked at the investment policy, we asked for their input, and I don't know that they've ever suggested anything that we didn't do.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
It's an interesting point, Don. I get the impression, and I could be wrong, but it's my perception that the investment advisor really doesn't want to guide too much or steer the board or the pension management, or the board of the pension, as opposed to, at least that's my take from FNB. When I worked with George and Lester on the Yoffer pension, I had a lot of detailed conversation with Liz Paris, I think it was her name, was the investment day-to-day manager. And I had to ask a lot of questions, prompted of it, but she came back and then gave ideas and so forth. So it was a deeper dialogue than maybe just in a public meeting. So it might be worth us pushing them a little harder on that point.
I think you're right, Charles, but I also think that we've asked for them to give us guidance based on what they're seeing other investors like us doing.
Right.
And
what our peers are doing.
I don't know that we've gotten a whole lot of good guidance. So maybe there are some things that we should change with our investment policy, but I think we need to keep a close eye on this.
Well, I'll be so bold as to make a suggestion based on some of my past experiences, but I think we're at a point where it would do no harm to send out requests for proposals for some other investment managers, including the incumbent, and give them an opportunity to explain why we should either retain the funds with them or other firms to explain why we should switch to them. And part of the questionnaire that typically goes out with a request for proposal is, how would you suggest we manage our portfolio differently? And that way you get input from various managers to see what kind of consistencies, if any, there are in terms of, well, based on what you're trying to accomplish, here's what we think you should do differently. So I think it would be a valuable experience for us to do that, and in the end, we may not make a change, but I think it's going to give us a lot of value information to help us going forward with managing those funds.
Great idea.
So I don't know, I'm drawing a blank on when we may have last done that in Springettsbury with the police fund, actually sent out requests for proposals.
We've been with FMB for 10 years, so probably haven't done it in those 10 years, I'm thinking.
Because that would, again, to the extent we can plagiarize other requests for proposals, saves a lot of time. So maybe we can look back and see if there was a request for proposal at that time sent out, and maybe use that as our starting point for how to put one together for this round, and how we come up with ideas of who are the potential recipients of that RFP.
I'll do some research.
Yeah, we can talk about who manages pension funds.
You have a new director of finance, right?
Before we send
Hello, Jamie.
anything out, I'll have the board cast an eye on the RFP.
Yeah, because I think there's certain questions you want to make sure are in there. Like I just said, how would you manage this fund differently if you were the manager? I think that's certainly an important question. Who else do you manage pension funds for? And what's been your track record? So there's a lot of good questions to go in there that probably already in the one we sent out before, but let's see what we have and tweak it if we need to.
My recollection, which may or may not help anyone, is that prior to FNB taking over 100% of the police pension fund, they managed half of it, and a different firm managed the other half. Which I remember when we did that in the first place, and thinking it was a genius idea to have them compete with each other, but by the end of it, everyone that I respected that I talked to told me that was a stupid idea. For whatever that's worth.
All right. Anything else? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.